Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for the next session of our JavaScript Buildathon. My name's Anna, I'll be your producer for this session. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our host for today. Julia, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Anna. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of the JavaScript AI Buildathon. It's really exciting to see all of you tuning in to continue with this amazing program that we kicked off last week. But in case this is the very first live stream that you're joining, don't worry. I'll give you a short introduction as to what the Buildathon is and what we are doing and also what's coming next. But before we do that, we'd love to know who we have on the live stream. So please drop a quick hi on the chat and let us know where you're joining in from. You can mention your country or your city, and we'll be excited to acknowledge the global representation that we have on today's stream. So I see we have a couple of folks already saying their hellos on the chat. So please just take a quick minute to say hi. And if you're feeling extra chatty today, you can let us know what you're looking forward to learning from today's session. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining in. Really excited for today's session. As we wait for everyone to introduce themselves, hello, Koder from India. I'm just going to briefly talk through what the program is. This is a JavaScript AI Buildathon, which is a virtual skilling series that is dedicated to showcasing the modern AI patterns for JavaScript developers. So the context behind this is that for most of the AI learning resources that you interact with, you'll realize that most of them default or assume that you're working in Python. But the reality is that JavaScript continues to power billions and billions of apps that are used by many people every single day. So we've designed this program to bring in the same experiences, learning experiences for JavaScript developers, for you to work comfortably in your tech stack and incorporate some of these AI capabilities that you see today. So the program started last week. Last week is when we had our first 3 live streams. They all focused on different sessions. So for today, and I'm sure Anna will drop a link to this website where you can just click on that link and you'll be able to see this page. One, you'll be able to register for the entire series. As I mentioned, this is a series of live streams, hands-on quests. We'll have a hackathon at the end of the week. So this is where you basically get to register for the entire experience. So click on that and it will take you to the Reactor website. And then once you do that, next step is for you to join our Discord space. This is a community that sits on Discord. So click on the Introduce Yourself link that should redirect you to the Microsoft Foundry Discord space. And once you're in, and this is the first time you'll basically get to accept a bunch of terms. And then once you're in, just scroll down to the hackathons and events section. And then that's where you'll find the Buildathon channel. This is your space for you to connect with other builders, other learners, and you can ask the questions and basically just showcase some of the ideas of what you are building. Now, once you do that, you'll come back on the website and you'll just find all the information about the program, including the schedule and links to everything that we've done so far. So this is what we had last week. We started off with a session on local AI development. So basically, how can you build AI solutions that are running 100% on device? And you will be able to get the recording to that as well. And then on Wednesday, we had a session covering the full end-to-end experience of model development on Microsoft Foundry. So once you've built on your local device, how can you scale that securely on Microsoft Foundry? So that live stream will answer those questions. And then on Friday, we had a deep dive into some of the advanced concepts of RAG. Again, you can catch up on all the recordings from these links that have been listed here. And so today we start off with our first session this week. How can you build and design agents locally with the AI Toolkit extension? So basically from the site, you should be able to also access some hands-on quests. These quests are some practical steps that should allow you to implement what you learn from the live stream. So once you go through a live stream, just come on the website and click on the quest. It will give you now some instructions and some exercises for you to be able to play around with all the technologies that are introduced in that particular live stream. So again, this website will be shared on the chat, so be sure to check it out. But for today, I'm excited to invite our speaker, that's April, who will take us through an introduction to AI Toolkit Extension and show us how you can design and build AI agents using the Agent Builder. So without any further ado, I'll welcome April on stage to take it away. And before I leave, I'll just mention that right after this live stream, we do have an AMA on Discord. So drop your questions on the chat. I will be in the background just noting your questions. And then once you get to the AMA, we'll start with those questions and April can interactively respond to them. So be sure to drop all the questions, suggestions, opinions that you have on the chat. Welcome, April.
All right, perfect. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's stream. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well. I'm April Gittens. I am the lead of our Python team here within Microsoft, and I'm here today to talk about JavaScript instead of Python. And that's okay, because what's really great about creating agents is that you're not necessarily pigeonholed into one particular language. Yes, we hear about Python a lot when we talk about things in the AI world, but we do have the ability to build with more than just Python. That also means the same thing for the AI Toolkit extension, which I'll get into in just a second. And I do want to just mention a couple of things I've seen here in the chat. I know Marcus says looking forward to burning some tokens. So hopefully we're not burning too many tokens. And then also Chickadee mentioned getting an idea of making an agent ideally with a model from Foundry Local. I will very briefly touch upon Foundry Local models today, but not too in depth, but I will at least show you how you can get access to Foundry models or Foundry Local models and use them in the extension. And then also Marcus has insisted not liking JavaScript, but learning that, yes, we are in a post-language type of world with large language models. I personally just learned JavaScript and TypeScript a little thoroughly last December. So I am pretty fresh, but you'll also see today that it is possible to build things even if you don't fully know a language, because we have tools like GitHub Copilot that's also available. So I'll bring that in wherever it makes most sense today as well, so you can see how multiple tools can come together to help with the agent building process. With that said, there are some parts of the extension that we'll be sharing today that aren't quite yet ready for JavaScript. However, over time, we may become available. So I'll point those things out as well. So in the event you are a multi-language sort of developer and you can switch between languages, if you happen to be doing Python or .NET, for example, you may have a bit more flexibility in this extension, but JavaScript still has some abilities of doing things here. So on the screen is the AI Toolkit extension. The AI Toolkit extension is an extension within Visual Studio Code that is able to help you with accelerating your agent development. I've been using the AI Toolkit since last year when we initially released it for the public, and I'll bring you to the actual page for it itself. Here we go. So this is the AI Toolkit for Visual Studio Code, and it's very, very helpful when it comes to building agents. I will say that right now the extension is getting a little bit of a glow up. It's in its glow up era because it is undergoing some really great changes that's going to add more functionality beyond what I'm going to just show today. So with that said, if you happen to install the extension today and within the next week or so, things start to look a little different, that's good. Don't be scared. that means that we're continuing to improve it. That's also why I really like using the AI Toolkit, because the team works very, very hard to make sure that we provide the latest features that are going to be relevant for AI developers such as yourselves. And we keep an eye on where the industry is going in terms of features that would make most sense in a tool such as this. So they're really good at updating the extension itself. Now, I happen to be in what we call the stable build, and that's likely going to be the version that you probably install for any extension in Visual Studio Code. But if you decide to switch to the pre-release, and you may notice on my screen, I have a button that says switch to pre-release version. If you like trying out new features before they become part of the stable build, you can try them out in the pre-release version. And we do have a GitHub repository for the AI Toolkit that you can submit your feedback as well. So that's just a little tip in the event you like trying new things before they land. And rather than me read all the details on here, we're actually going to go through the extension. We're going to go on a little brief tour to show you what's in there. And then we're going to get into actually creating an agent. So the AI Toolkit extension itself, right now, it comes with 2 extensions. It's a little combo pack, okay? But we are bringing them, the experiences together. So we have the AI Toolkit, which is what I have here, but then we also have the Microsoft Foundry extension as well. The Microsoft Foundry extension, if I can open that up, works hand in hand with the AI Toolkit. It also helps you with, or enables you to create agents for Microsoft Foundry. And if you happen to have a Microsoft Foundry account and an agent that you're creating, you can continue to do that here within Visual Studio Code within the Microsoft Foundry extension. So if you install the AI Toolkit, you're also going to get the Microsoft Foundry extension. Wanted to give you a heads up on that, just in case you're installing things and you notice you also got this extension as a bonus extension. And so back over in the AI Toolkit, though, itself, you don't have to create Foundry agents. You actually can create any agents, not necessarily just for Foundry. It is platform agnostic in that way, because we do provide various other models as well. And we will provide you with the code for whatever agent you're creating, so you can take it and do whatever you want with it. But if you do decide you want to create it as a Foundry agent, we do have a way for you to do that as well in the extension. Starting here in the top left, we have the resources that are your resources for whatever it is you're creating. We have a section for models, and this is going to be all the models that you have decided to deploy. And so if I expand mine right now, I can see that they are categorized a little further. So for one, we have any GitHub models, which are going to be free, but you can continue using those if you want to go the pay-as-you-go route. Then we also have Microsoft Foundry models. So I mentioned that Foundry extension earlier. So because the AI Toolkit and the Microsoft Foundry extension works together, you can access those Foundry models that are deployed here in the AI Toolkit as well. And then if you have any third-party models, which I'll show you in a bit, those will also be here. And then also if you're using any local models, those will also be here as well. Just below that, we have what's called agents. As you're creating your agents, they will start to build up here. And this is where you can come and always continue to iterate on those agents. And so we'll get into that a bit more once we go to create an agent in just a bit. And then finally, we have tools. So these are going to be your MCP tools and servers. If you're creating any custom tools as well, you can access that here. Just in general, this My Resources section is where you can come and find, again, your models, your agents, your tools. They're all gathered here together. Now, just below that, we have some things that we can do with our models itself in the model tools section. We have the model catalog, which we'll get into in just a bit. The model catalog is where you can come and search for models and read more about them in their model card. And that's also where you can deploy models. Then we have the model playground. The model playground is where you can go and test the models and on themselves. And so, and I'm seeing I am very dark on camera. Let me see if I can fix that. 1 second. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Give me 1 second. Let me fix that for everyone. I'll be right back. Nope, doesn't look as good. Let me try one more time. All right, can't win them all. All right, we'll just continue with how we have it. So in any case, yeah, evidence that we are live. Absolutely. Okay, so as I was saying, Model Playground is where you can come and test out your models, and we'll look at that in just a hot moment. And then if you're doing any sort of model conversion, any fine tuning, all that's here and available within the AI Toolkit. Then just below, we have where you can go and create your agent with the agent builder. This is where you can find more tools as well. And this is where you can also inspect your agent. You can do things like tracing. You can do evaluations, because you should be doing evaluations before you go deploy your agent into the real world, into production, because you want to make sure that it's getting all those marks that you define for yourself as well. All right, so, oh yeah, like I think it might be the sun that's coming in. Yes, the sun, I just realized, is making its appearance on the stream. Okay, so, and then below that, we can get into doing some things with GitHub Copilot to help with building an agent. So if you've never built an agent a day in your life, you need a little more help, GitHub Copilot is equipped to work with the AI Toolkit to help you in building your agents, which is really helpful. And we'll take a look at how you can go about doing that. So for today, the scenario that we're going to be working on is creating an agent that can recommend activities and things to do when you're traveling. So I know whenever I go travel somewhere, I think the one place that I check first is probably Instagram, and I look and see what everyone else is talking about in terms of like attractions and things to do. But if we could cut that part out, or still use that part, but also optimize that process with AI to also recommend things, maybe do something whereas AI can recommend something and then I can go check it out for myself to see who's actually talking about it and has videos and such. Those are just sort of reasons why I personally would build an agent like this. You don't have to build this sort of agent, but that's a scenario that we're going to be sticking with today. Now, with that said, because I know what my scenario is, I know that I'm going to need a model of some sort. And let's say I don't know which model I want to use. I know for me personally, I usually stick with like the same one model every time I build something, but that's not ideal. What you should be doing is using a model that makes sense for your given scenario. Fortunately, if you happen to use GitHub Copilot, you can actually get model recommendations, which is really nice. Get rid of that npm install. And then within GitHub Copilot, in terms of, if you didn't see how I opened that, top of Visual Studio Code, there's a toggle chat icon. If you were to select that and open it, and you can expand it if you click the little 4 corner squares next to the X, that will give you the whole view. In here, you can actually ask GitHub Copilot to recommend a model. So if I want to say that I'm building an agent that recommends activities and things to do while traveling, help me select the model and make sure you're in agent mode. That's one of the key things, that you're in agent mode. What it's going to do is use one of our AI Toolkit tools available in helping you figure out which model to use. So right now it's working. And so it's analyzing as well. And so as it's thinking, it'll keep going. And then eventually it'll come and recommend an actual model for me as well. I happen to be in a project right now, so it's looking at everything that I have in my project. But if I wasn't already in this project, it probably wouldn't be going through everything that's in here. It would be starting completely from scratch. So if you are starting from scratch, that's actually pretty great. There's no problem with that. And we do have some model recommendations as well here. And so right now, what I am seeing based on what it's recommending, it's either saying GPT 4.1 mini as my default, but if I want a more premium model, then it would be GPT 5.1 chat. There is a question around in regards to how do you know whether you're in agent mode? When you're in GitHub Copilot, at the very bottom, where right now I have where it says agent, if you click that, yours might say plan or it might say ask. These are going to be the different modes itself. If your screen is a little too tiny, it might not say it physically visually on the screen because the screen gets a little compressed. But it's going to be, for me, it's the third one in from the left that says agent now. And also you can create custom agents as well for GitHub Copilot, just in case you didn't know. All right, so let me see. There's one other thing I wanted to show you. Yes, okay. So because we have AI Toolkit tools available with GitHub Copilot, you can also define which tool you want to use. But if you aren't sure which tools we have available, if you do the hash symbol and then type in AITK, this is where we give you a list of all the tools that you can use with GitHub Copilot. And so for this one, let's say I wanted to explicitly call out the Git AI model guidance. And I want to say now again, recommend a model for my agent that gives travel activities advice. Now it's going to actually use the tool, because before what I noticed is that it didn't actually invoke the tool itself. If it ever does use the tool, it'll say it somewhere towards the top, the tool call that it does. But for me, it just recommended one. And so now that I'm actually using the tool itself, it's showing that it's doing the actual tool call. So we have various tools available, again, with the AI Toolkit that you can use with GitHub Copilot. And if you want to see all of those, again, you can click the hash sign and you can type AITK. You have to have AI Toolkit installed in order to use these tools that comes with it. So the recommended models that it has right now that we've actually used the tool, is GPT 5.1 chat. But if I want a lower cost, it's saying go with GPT 4.1 mini, but I can keep GPT 5.1 chat. This is super helpful if you don't really understand the trade-offs between models. Another way you can evaluate that yourself is by going to the model catalog itself. And this is the model catalog in the AI Toolkit. So the model catalog in the AI Toolkit is where you can come find various models, whether they're the ones that we host ourselves at Microsoft, within Microsoft Foundry, or whether you're looking for something that's maybe available through Hugging Face, for example. Maybe you're looking for a local model as well. All that is going to be in here. In the model catalog, we have the ability to search for a model. So if you already know the name of the model that you want, you can just search by name. If you happen to know who it's hosted by, maybe I'm looking for an Anthropic model, for example, or maybe I want something from Olama. You can come and select whatever the host is, and that's how you can filter that. Then there's also, I clicked the button, don't know what I clicked, but we'll find out shortly. There's also publisher as well. And so we have various ones available, and features. If you know that you're looking for a model that does something very specific, like I need a model that can generate images, for example, or I need a model, or not generate images, I'm sorry, because we don't have that supported just yet within the toolkit. But I need a model that can support image attachment. I want to be able to send an image to the model and the model to process that image and tell me what's going on with it. You can narrow down by doing like image attachment. If I wanted something that could search the web, for example, you can narrow that down by doing web search. So those are what the features are going to be used for. And then within the model type, you also have the ability to choose whether it's something that's going to be a local run with your CPU, your GPU, or your NPUs, or if it's going to be remote access. The first three I will say if you're doing like anything with local models, that's where that more so comes into play. And if you're doing any fine tuning, that's where the last one on the far right is. Essentially what you'll be doing is you're, for lack of better terms, you're modifying a model. Maybe you're doing more training with it. You're doing something that's making it a little more specific to whatever your use case is. Then that's where more of that fine tuning comes into play. All right. To Marcus's point, as comical as that sounds, technically, yes, you can use Anthropic models here in the AI Toolkit. We do host their models in Microsoft Foundry. And so as I have here on the screen, for example, there's Claude Opus 4.1, Claude Sonnet 4.6, for example. As new models come out, we do our best to get those available as quick as we can into Foundry. And the Foundry models is what's going to drive what we have here in the AI Toolkit. So the team does work very hard once we know new models are available to bring them in here for you. Just down below, maybe not what I want. Yeah, okay, here we go. We also have other sections. I know Microsoft Foundry was more at the top where there was a really large section. Below that, though, we do have our GitHub models. Those are going to be free to start with. But in the event that you do hit your usage limits, you will be notified. So it's not a big surprise. You'll be notified at least with the option to convert to a pay-as-you-go model, which at that point, you will be asked to complete payment information over on the GitHub side. But that's just a heads up if you decide to go that route with your models. And then we have the local models. So for Chickadee, I believe, who inquired about using Foundry local models, you had two options. Either you want to use Foundry local models, or you can use Ollama. So we don't make you choose there. It's really whichever is your preference. And then once you found the one that you want, you can go ahead and add that model. For those unfamiliar with local models or wondering like, what's that? So your local models are going to be models that you can actually download to your machine and you can run things locally versus in the cloud. So the models that I showed above, those are going to be your cloud hosted models. So when you do send a prompt, it does go to externally to a server, our servers. But for your local model, everything is going to be run locally on your computer. It doesn't go anywhere beyond that. Local models are really great if you have the processing power to use them. That's really what it's going to boil down to. I know my computer that I built is like crazy powerful, but I would say maybe like if I ran one on my Mac instead, it wouldn't be as fast. So it really depends on your hardware and how well and whether also your computer could hold the model as well. Some are very large. Also, from a security aspect, because your prompts technically don't leave your local machine, then you mitigate some of the security risk that comes with doing things that are more cloud hosted. If you happen to be into things like Raspberry Pi, for example, I know the Raspberry Pi 5s can actually hold a small language model, and those are going to be just smaller language models. And I've put one on there, and that's great because if you're doing anything that doesn't require your Raspberry Pi connected to the internet, you can run your model locally on the device without having to connect to the internet. So that's just a little bit about using local models. Now, Copilot recommended a GPT model, and I think I had already selected one that I really wanted to use. I went with GPT-4o. I know it didn't recommend it, but let's work with this one right now because I actually do like how things turned out with GPT-4.0. Now, when you click on any of these models, you will be taken to the model card. So right now, if I were to go to GPT-4o, what it's going to do is take me to the model card for that model over in Microsoft Foundry because I'm going to use a Foundry hosted model. But if you were to select any other ones, it'll just take you to the model card for wherever that model is hosted. The model card gives you information with respect to what the model is capable of, when was like the cutoff date of its knowledge, for example, what languages, like spoken languages, written languages are supported as well. And so once you've chosen your model, you can select deploy. If it's a Foundry model, if it is a Foundry model, we will actually take you through a wizard where you can select or create your Foundry resource and your project, and you can choose the amount of tokens, for example, for the model, and then it'll do all that deployment right here in the extension. I already have my model deployed, so I won't redeploy it, but all of that can happen here in the extension. You don't have to leave the extension in order to deploy a model. All that happens here. Now, let's say that I wanted to try 2 different models. I'm not sure which one might work best for my scenario. Well, that's okay, because in the model playground, what we can do in here is actually start chatting with the models as well. So what you can do in the model playground is come in here, you can select the model that you want to just chat with. This isn't the agent creating parts yet. This is just us figuring out, do we like this model before we move forward with creating our agent? Now, once this model loads over here on the far right-hand side on the model preferences, I'll take you through what this experience is like. And it must have heard me because now it's available. But within here, in this middle section, the larger section, if you will, is where you can come and chat with the model. We do give you some example prompts to consider. And then on the right-hand side in model preferences is where you can come and select the model. So all the models that you currently have listed in that models section in my resources is what's going to appear over here on the right-hand side in your model dropdown. And then if you want to provide a system prompt for your model, you can. That system prompt is going to drive the model's behavior when it outputs. And it's really up to you. Sometimes I'll give it something topic specific to what I'm creating. And then sometimes I'll just leave it as is because I just want to see what the model is like with any real guidance on how it should behave. And then there's also some inference parameters as well. So your maxed response tokens and your reasoning effort. I know earlier Marcus was ready to burn through some tokens, but you can always limit that as well. And so in here, if you're being cost effective and you don't just want to have the usage of a ton, you can go and limit that in here. But it will impact the output for your agent as well. So you may see some responses get a little truncated, which means they get shortened. So do keep that in mind. All right, so in terms of a prompt, right now I have GPT-5 Nano from GitHub, hosted of the GitHub models. And I'm gonna ask it, what are the top 3 best sites to see in Los Angeles? I'm using Los Angeles because I actually live here. And so for me, it's easy to evaluate what sort of information it brings back. Before I press send, you'll notice there's some other options down here at the bottom. Some of these options are dependent on the model because not all models are the same. So we have the ability to do attachments, whether it's like documents, PDFs, Excel, spreadsheets, also images. You can attach images, and then the web. If your model is capable of that sort of feature of doing something with those sort of attachments or doing web search, then you'll be able to actually use those options at the bottom. So from here, we can go ahead and submit that and see what happens. You'll notice here that we have something that says tokens used. I will tell you, not every model that you'll run through the model playground will give you the tokens used. But if you do see that, it is helpful for evaluating which models to choose as well, because it'll help you with your cost management of things as well. There's a question that I don't necessarily have the answer for on this stream, but I would say definitely pose it in the Discord, which is how does licensing work for developers and users of the agent post deployment? So again, if you go into the Discord that Julia mentioned in the beginning, post it in there, and I'm sure others will provide their own insight as well on how they do their licensing. And then there's other questions. Is it possible to integrate models from other providers such as Cerebra's, Novita, etc.? So I haven't personally used any of the models from there. And if I do a quick search on my other computer, let me see what they have looking at Cerebra's. So you can bring a model in into the toolkit as well. But for like a model like a Cerebra's model, for example, let me see, I'm looking on their site right now. If it's not something that's available already in the toolkit, there's one of two things that you can do. If you are able to actually, like, let's say, like download a model, for example, you can bring that in. But if you go to the GitHub repository for the AI toolkit and recommend it as like a GitHub issue, that's something that the team can take into account as well. And what'll happen is we'll look to see where the demand is for those models, and maybe we'll load those models as well onto into the model catalog for use. All right, so we have a response back from our GPT-5 Nano. It did recommend the Griffith Observatory, the Getty Center, and a Santa Monica Pier and Beach. All very typical things to do in LA. So I would say, okay, this is fine. But what if we had a model that could do this better? That's where the compare comes in. So compare here at the top is where you can compare two models at once. So we can get a side-by-side view of how each model performs. So I have that GPT-4o model from earlier. If I select that one, now my screen is going to be split. I can actually resubmit that prompt that I had earlier, and we can run it to see how each model does. And so if I say again, what are the top 3 best sites to see in Los Angeles? You know, all these years I've been here, I have yet to go to the Griffith Observatory, actually. I've hiked towards it, just never been inside. All right, if I submit this, first thing you'll notice right off the bat, GPT-4o doesn't do model count. So I mentioned earlier, not every model will return the model count, or the token count itself. And I seem to have a little bit of a lag right now, it seems. Let's see, hopefully this goes, because it should have gone by now. We'll find out if we hit a snag. But essentially what this feature will do for you is it'll give you the output from each of the models. And the past couple of times where I've ran this, GPT-4.0 is usually like on it. It's very quick. I'm able to get a response very, very, very fast, I will say. And so this is a really good way to go about with testing them out. This seems to be a little hung right now. So I actually have a demo to show you how that works. Let me see. Okay. I'll bring that over here. Okay. I'm going to add one more screen, our friends at the Reactor, so that way I can show this. 1 second. All right. This is why we prepare ourselves. Okay. So this is an example of what it's like when you're in that compare. And I submitted that same prompt. You'll see right off the bat, as soon as I press send, GPT-4.0 on the right is quick. I have a response very, very fast. That's something else you'll want to keep in mind when you are evaluating your models, because speed can be very important. If you are doing something whereas you're expecting the agent to respond quickly versus taking a lot longer than some models will take, you will want to get an idea of which model behaves quicker as well. But if you're not worried about speed, then hey, it's not a thing. But I like to go with things that are going to be faster if it's going to be more in an agent capacity. So I'm going to, my friends at the Reactor, I'm going to go back to my other screen. Give me 1 second. All right. Cool. All right. Can we see everything? 1 second. All right. We are back. Okay. Yeah, I see some folks in the chat are saying things are running a little slow right now. And so hopefully that will get resolved. Moving on though to creating, before we create the agent itself. Now that you've gone through, you spoke with some, or you had a chat with some of the models, and maybe you deployed a lot of models. Maybe you come to realize you don't need all the models that you deployed. Up here within your resources in the model section, you can find that model. And if you right click it, you can select delete, and that'll clean up what you have going on in that model section under my resources. So that's just as a heads up for that. Now I want to move forward with actually creating the agent, and that brings us to the agent builder. Now within the agent builder, I'm not going to restore that. This is where you can come and create a brand new agent from scratch. If you already were building with an agent that you're already been working on and you want to iterate on it, you can come back to here and continue working on it, because you can save your agents here, which is really great as well. So I'm going to create one starting from scratch in here so you can see what that experience is like. In here right now, on the left-hand side is the builder itself. On the right-hand side is the playground. The playground is similar to that model playground earlier, where you can come and actually chat with your agent. So instead of just chatting with just the model, you're chatting with the agent here. So on the left-hand side, what you'll start off by doing is giving your agent a name. So I want to call this agent travel recommendation agent. And I think we have restrictions on whether you can do spaces. Yeah. So if you try to name your model or your agent something that doesn't fit the naming convention we're looking for, we'll give you this pop-up here. So your agent name has to start and end with an alphanumeric character, and it can contain hyphens in the middle. So to make it more legible, I'll say travel recommendation agent, just like that. Then below there, you can choose your model that you would like to use. And so I only have these two in here, but I like GPT-4o, so you can select that. And then from there, you can give your agent instructions. I didn't give instructions last time when I went through evaluating the models back over in the model playground. But here, however, is where I will say, yes, you should define instructions for your agent, because that's going to drive the agent's behavior. Now, what if you've never created instructions for your agent, or you need a little help with creating instructions for your agent? We have two things available. One, we have this Inspire Me button. The Inspire Me button is actually going to be helpful if you don't even know what sort of agent you want to create. And it'll just create an agent for you, and you can work from there. But if you need help with this very specific type of agent that you're creating, you can click on the generate, and then you can give it a description of what it is the agent should do. And so I could just say, this agent recommends travel activities, and then click generate. I know things are moving a little slow, so hopefully this generates. If not, it's okay. But I do believe we have a backup to show you this. But essentially what it will do is, give you an actual set of instructions for the agent, which is really nice. In the event you were to already have a set of instructions for your agent, and maybe those instructions could use a little help, there is another option in here that I'll show you in a second. But right now, we do have the recommendations for our agent, or the instructions that were generated. And I won't read these in detail, but let's just say that based on what's here, which I do recommend that you read it though before you move forward, let's say you wanted to improve it. So whether it gave you one that you want to improve, or you already created one and you want to do some updates to it, once you've placed a set of instructions in here, this button now becomes an improve button. And if you select that, you can then say explicitly what it is that you want to have improved with the instructions themselves. And so you would just define here what should be changed, and then likewise, it'll do that improvement for you. So I would say include asking whether activities for dogs should be included. Not the most grammatically correct sentence. So if you click improve there, it'll go back and it'll regenerate everything. And then from here, what it'll do is not just only give you an updated set of instructions, it'll also enable you to view the diff between the two. So the diff is going to show you what the instructions once were. And beside it, it'll show you what it is now. So hopefully we get that here on the bottom right. You'll see this pop up. And if you select view diff, it'll bring you this screen where you can see what it once was, what updates were added. In the event you decide that, you know what, I really like that first one more rather than the update, then you can copy and paste the old one and place it back into the agent builder. So in here, just below that, once you have your model selected and then your instructions, the very next thing that you can do is add your tools. I'm not going to be adding any tools today per se. However, if you want to add any tools from an MCP server, then what you can do is select the plus icon that we have here, and we have a catalog of tools available. Now, because I'm using a Foundry model, you'll notice that I have some Foundry tools that have popped up here, and I will be able to use those, whether that's going to be web search. There's also the code interpreter, file search, grounding with Bing search. That's when you're going to be able to use the internet more, just like the web search and Azure AI search. One thing I will point out for anything that's like the web search or grounding with Bing search, and I think for the web search, you can actually specify the sites to use versus just using all the internet. And then if you also, there's some local tools, there's an MCP time, but then there's a full catalog too. So if you want to go beyond just the Foundry tools available, we have this catalog of tools that you can add in as well. And once you found one that you like, you can just select it and then connect the tool. Again, I'm not connecting any tools today, but I want to let you know that this is here. Now that we've actually have created the agent itself, we gave it some instructions, I'm going to put in this prompt that I prepared for us today. And it says, that's the wrong one. So this one's going to say, I'm going to Los Angeles. What should I do? We'll see if it wants to work with us. Yay. Okay, perfect. So right off the bat, you'll notice there's a big difference from earlier. So before, because the prompts were also different, but it's following the instructions of actually asking for follow-up details in order to recommend. And that was included in the instructions that we provided for the agent itself. Like here we have within the steps, it tells you what it is that you should do as the agent. So it is asking me these things, and let's say that I happen to have a response for that. So I want to say that I'm flying to Los Angeles and staying for 3 nights. It wants to know about my budget. So I say $1,500 budget. It's happening during the summer, and I don't want to do any outdoor activities, no vegetarian restaurants. I want to go where the locals eat. Not the best LA experience that I'd recommend, but it is an LA experience. So we got a response pretty quickly here in terms of what we could do. And as someone who lives here, I can say some of the recommendations here, they're sound. Probably would double check on some of the budget breakdown because you'd want to be able to pull in the most accurate information. And I'll get into how you can validate that in just a second. But based on what we have here, it's saying to go to the Broad Museum, for example. It's keeping that budget into consideration that I gave it. Grand Central Market, which if you are in LA, I do recommend going there for food. There's a lot of places to choose from to eat inside there. Then below that, we have some food over in Koreatown as well. But what I really like, you'll notice in the way that this agent does its output, not only does it recommend what to do, but it is mentioning what the cost is. It tells you how much time is going to be needed as well. And I even have here the best time to visit, which is important in LA. LA is like nowhere else I've ever lived before. I'm originally from the East Coast, DC to be specific. And if you're like off work during the middle of the week and you go out and run errands, no one's really out. But in Los Angeles, that is not the case. People are always out and about because the job market's very different here and how people work is very different too. But in any case, I like the way the agent has done this output. It even recommended a last bookstore as well, which is, I have yet to go there, but I would love to go there as well. And so what we have overall is a very cost-effective trip. But I did mention earlier the budget breakdown as well. So I don't know top of mind the cutoff date for when this particular model was trained, but it's going to be using the most, like the last bit of information that it has in there. What you can do to really enhance a model or an agent like this is actually bringing in some sort of travel-related MCP tool that may be pulling in actual live information about hotel rates, for examples. So this is where I would say bringing in a tool would like really improve this experience for the agent as well. Now, let's say that I'm happy with this agent. I want to now move forward with doing more with it. I want to get to a point where I'm getting closer to being able to actually deploy it, for example. Well, you have two options. You can either create this as a Foundry agent, and you'll notice that there's this button at the top that says Save to Foundry. And what that's going to do is deploy this agent to Foundry. Alternatively, you can save it locally. And that's what I'm going to do, because let's say, even though I'm using this Foundry model, I don't want my agent to be on Foundry. Let's say I want to do something else with it. If you click Save to Local, it saves it first and foremost. So now in that top where I had my resources agent, here is that agent, the travel recommendation agent. And what you can do from here is you can keep working on it. Anytime you open up the extension again, you can come back and continue to edit it. But what I can also do, because I'm a developer, I want to do some things with code. Everything I've showed you so far is very UI based, but now I want to do things with actual code. At the top right, we have this button that says View Code. And then from here, what you can do is select the SDK. This is where we do have some limitations that I will point out right now. So Microsoft Agent Framework, the last time I checked, we don't have support for JavaScript at the moment. However, if you were to use the Azure AI Inference SDK, we do. So if you select the Azure AI Inference SDK, you'll then be asked to choose the authentication type. I'm using a Foundry model, so this is why it's asking about this. I recommend doing the intra ID authentication versus the key authentication. If you do a key authentication, you'll need to actually insert your key somewhere. But with the intra ID, it's going to be, you'll be less vulnerable, I would say. You will need to sign in and authenticate, and that's the way that we recommend you go about doing that. There's a question from Marcus. Do most LLMs know their last training date? If you ask the LLM specifically if it knows, it really depends on the system prompt that the model provider has created. So if you were to just ask, I think I'm using GPT 4.0, for example, like when was your last training date? It might tell you, but they may have made it so that the system prompt doesn't give you that information. It really depends on the model provider. So then from here though, enter ID, and then from here you can select JavaScript. And this is going to be the same for all the other options in terms of the languages that are available. So as I mentioned, if I did Microsoft Agent Framework, I wouldn't have gotten JavaScript on here. So do keep that in mind. I'll do JavaScript though. And then we give you the code. So here's the code itself. And you can actually run this. We do give you a comment towards the top for anything else that you'll need to do before you run it. But in this case, I just need to do an npm install for the Azure REST, or for the AI inference, and then also Azure Identity. And assuming I've followed those steps and I've authenticated using the default Azure credential, I can actually start chatting with this agent. I took the liberty in creating an updated version of this myself. And so let me see which one it is. So my agent demo one, the reason why I updated this is that the code that we give you is a one-shot version of the agent. What that means is that there's not this interactive sort of conversation that you can have. And I like interactivity. I like being able to ensure my agent has that memory that's going to be necessary, and I can continue having that conversation. I actually use GitHub Copilot to help update the script that we give you. And this is where using tools like GitHub Copilot is super helpful, because you can just tell it the updates that you want it to make, and it'll do that. So for here, if I were to go ahead and open up my terminal, and my terminal is huge. There we go. If all the stars are aligned, I should be able to run this with no problem, but let's see. Node agent demo.js. We'll find out together. All right, perfect. Yeah. So now I have this ability to chat more interactively. And so I can say, I'm going to Los Angeles. Oops. Help. What's happened in this code that we give you is we bring over the model, we bring over the system prompt as well. So you don't have to start those things from scratch. And so now that I said I'm going to Los Angeles, help, what it'll now do is start to kick off that process of asking questions where it needs more details. And this is exactly what it's done here. So I can just say, I'm going in June, 2 nights, I have $700. Oh, 7,000. Oh, geez, that's a lot. So I have $700. And then from there, it'll go and it'll recommend things. So this is how you can make that transition from going to that more UI approach in the agent builder to now doing things with code with a little help from something like GitHub Copilot. And I do have my response here as well. So this is great. We know the agent's working. The last thing I'll show you very quickly as we're nearing the end here is how to do tracing. Tracing is going to enable you to keep track of the conversation flow that's happening with your agent and also identify any errors that might be hit. We have a tracing viewer in the AI Toolkit, and that tracing viewer is available within your agent and workflow tools. Let me close these up. And in this tracing viewer is where you can come and you can actually collect the traces for your agent itself. I do have one that's already has been created to do that. We use, or you can use OpenTelemetry. If you add, if you modify your agent to include the use of OpenTelemetry itself, you can start collecting traces. If you aren't sure how to do that, GitHub Copilot can also help with that as well. We have an AI Toolkit skill or tool available that will actually do that for you, which is beyond helpful. And so if I were to open that one up, I have an example here. You'll notice that I've had some things change in this file that will enable me to start collecting traces. But once you're ready to start collecting them, you'll start the collector. You'll run your agent, you'll chat with it. And every time you have these conversations, it'll pull into the tracing viewer itself. And if you were to select any of the traces in here, you can start to see the trace details as well. I even personally created a custom span because I really wanted to see what the output was, and I wasn't getting that by default for what the model response was. And so I created a custom one as well, where now I can also start to see the model that was used and the preview of the text itself. So I know we covered a lot today with the AI Toolkit, and there's so much more that you can do. You can also do things like evaluations as well, which is where you can start using various evaluators like tool call accuracy, and then also relevance, whether there's, if you have like custom things you want to evaluate on, you can create custom evaluators as well. So I hope that you all enjoyed this session. I will definitely see you in the AMA, but I'm going to hand things over back to Julia.
Thank you so much, April. This was such an informative session. I know I've been using the AI Toolkit for some time, but I have also picked up some new ways of using Copilot to actually help me whenever I'm stuck. So that's incredibly helpful. And I've seen some questions coming in through the chat. What I've done is you've actually addressed some of them, but for those that you are not yet able to address, I've just noted them down and you'll be able to go through them in the upcoming AMA. So thank you so much for having this session with us. So what you see on the screen is a QR code that you can scan, and this will direct you to the upcoming AMA session. We'll start in 5 minutes. So you can definitely go grab a cup of water and then come back for an interactive session with April. Bring in your new questions. So if there's a question you're not able to ask, come with it. If you have a scenario that you want to maybe walk us through, you're free to do that. So looking forward to interacting with more of you in the AMA session. And again, throughout the chat, we've been sharing some links to help you get practical, get hands-on with the AI, with the AI Toolkit. It's an incredible extension, and I'm really loving the additional support for tracing and evals, and I'm really looking forward to the questions that you have for us. So with that, we'll end the stream here today. But for those who will not be joining us in the AMA right after, on Wednesday, we do have the next live stream, which is also focusing on AI agents, but this takes it to the next level. So this goes to how you can design agentic systems that are ready for production environments. So be sure to sign up for that session, and we'll talk more about this on Wednesday. So thank you all so much for joining us. See you in the next 4 minutes on Discord.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is a part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.